Hello everyone. Welcome to Special TV. Here is a report on the transport of the new Euvelgunner bridge's decks for the city of Groningen in the Netherlands. We followed the transport by water through a part of the provinces of Groningen and Friesland. The transport was carried out by Royal Wagenborg, and the bridge decks were built by Hollandia Infra.
The transport over water of the new Euvelgunner bridge decks was a day before assembly. The transport of the Euvelgunner bridge decks was carried out by Royal Wagenborg from Delfzijl, the Netherlands. Water transport began from Hollandia Infra's construction site in Krimpen aan de IJssel, the Netherlands. Hollandia Infra is the builder of the two new Euvelgunner bridge decks. These were built in the factory halls at Hollandia's location in Krimpen aan de IJssel. Gyres. Length 15.28 meters. Width 4.41 meters. Depth 2.11 meters. Wagenborg first had to make a quotation for this transport. When Wagenborg had won this contract, they drew up a new transport plan. Stellenbosch Bridge. Location, Kiestemar. Height, 1.23 meters. This was certainly not an easy transport plan, because the two bridge parts had the dimensions of bridge deck north 16 by 12 meters and south 16 by 10 meters. These did not fit within the dimensions of the pontoon, which was intended for this purpose. This posed a challenge for Wagenborg. This was solved by them putting an accepting pontoon next to the size. The place for placing the bridge decks on the pontoon was also determined together with the lifting plan for unloading the bridges, because the cranes must be able to lift and place the bridge decks in an easy way at the adapted installation location. The pontoon used was stable enough for the transport of the two bridge decks, weighing 130 and 120 tons. This follows from the tax calculation of stability. Wagenborg Barge 6. Length 55 meters. Width 11.40 meters. Depth 2.17 meters. Load capacity 826 tons. Bridge, Laufolet. Clearance height closed, 6.81 meters. Width, 16.07 meters. Princess Margriet Canal. Length, 65 kilometers. Width, 60 meters. Barkmeyer Shipyards. Stubos. Strubos Bridge. Location: Strubos. Width: 18.91 meters. The landing pontoon that was placed next to the main pontoon was to protect the crossing parts of the bridge from damage during transport. Wagenborg had several pontoons available for this transport, which fit within the dimensions of the waterways where the transport had to go. The sailing speed of the transport with which sailed was 10 km per hour as an average. And when passing works of art, like bridges and sluices, they slow down the speed. The maximum wind force limitation for sailing with this transport did not apply. Because the bridge decks were flat on the pontoon, there was little influence from the wind. The maximum wind force to be able to sail, they determined this by a stability calculation on the one hand, and on the other hand, whether it is still safe and responsible to sail. Van Starkenborg Canal. Length: 27 kilometers. Width: 50 meters. Is part of the main waterway. Lemmer, Delfzijl. At Wagenborg, they had opted for a combination of a towing and a pusher boat. This was necessary because this pusher boat does not overlook the load. Then a tugboat is necessary for this. This is also different due to the dimensions of the transport. In this case, there was an accepting pontoon next to it, which made the combination wider, and that's why a tugboat was needed. The force with which the transport was propelled was 8 tons of bollard pull for these push-pull combination. Bollard pull is the pulling force that the push tug can give. The speed of the transport was reached by combining the tow and the pusher. Pusher boat, waterport. Length 20.12 meters, width 6.30 meters, depth 2.80 meters. When asked whether the bridge decks should also be monitored during transport, reply to project leader Wouter Siemerink: the skippers always keep an eye on the cargo, which is secured according to the stowage plan. A number of chains were attached to the load on the pontoon. As a result, it basically stayed in place. Sluice doors Garkuken. Weight 27 tons per door. Garkuken sluice. Width 16 meters, length 190 meters. Fence length 190 meters. Bridge Garkuken. Place Rijkswaterstaat. The tug and pusher boat had drilled their own crew. This involved a skipper/captain and a sailor. During loading, a lashing device or employees for operating pumps may be added, depending on the work. Also make when mooring the pontoon. Wagenborg has several pushers and tugs that could carry out this transport, in addition to the boats for inland waters. Wagenborg also supplies tugs for use in ports and for maritime transport. Wagenborg Towage Service takes care of these inshore and offshore transports, and this has grown considerably in recent years. This applies to both inland waters and at sea. Wagenborg invests a lot in people and equipment, because there is a growing demand to be able to meet the work. Bert Swart Bridge, 200-meter-long railway bridge, has a free span of 160 meters. On the inland waterways, Wagenborg loads and transports and installs many bridges. Installation is also done with a floating crane trestle, which they manage in-house at Wagenborg. Project leader Wouter Siemerink checks that an application for transport by water has been received, to see what kind of object needs to be transported. Then they look at where they should pick it up and where the object should be transported. And they looked at which waterways the transport should go along. Then they determine which material is needed for this. With that data, they make a quotation. Once the Wagenborg assignment has been assigned, they put all preparations into the planning. Project leader Wouter tries to be there during the execution of the transport, to see how the assignment goes in practice.